Okay, I think we can probably get started here. If anyone else joins, then of course we will let them in. But for those that are here, thank you so much for joining us today with In Conversation with RTDNA Presents. I'm Angie Seth, I'm the president. Esther Caszo is our guest today. Before we kind of jump into the conversation, a little bit of housekeeping here. We're going to have the discussion go for about 20 or so minutes, and then we're going to open it up to questions. Those that are online right now, feel free at that point to, raise your hand, ask questions. You're welcome to ask them on camera. If you don't want to ask them on camera, for example, but rather want to put a question in the chat, then stick it in the chat, and we will then relay it to Esther, and she can answer the questions. But this webinar as well, this In Conversation With, will also be in the RTDNA website. Esther, of course, will also have a copy as well. So there'll be opportunities for other people to see it as well, but for you too as well. And I hope at some point then you're getting the opportunity to watch the short film Cry Baby Cry. So without further ado, Esther, thank you so much, and welcome to I guess another edition of In Conversation With here with RTDNA. I really appreciate you coming. For those that are joining us now, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Esther's bio. It's very impressive, and understandably, we know why she does the work that she does. But she's a Toronto-based producer, director, and writer with over 12 years of experience across Canada, the UK, and India, and she built her career producing unscripted television and brand content for major broadcasters, including CBC's Dragon's Den, Rogers City Line, and Breakfast Television. In 2025, she founded 414 Films Inc. and pivoted into fiction writing, directing, and producing Cry Baby Cry. Now, this is a short film on consent with an all-female cast. All-female crew and South Asian cast. It's screened at the IFSA and the MIFSA, as well as Canada Shorts, the Toronto Short Film Festival. And she's currently in post-production for a short about identity, masculinity, and mental health. Esther makes urgent, culturally specific stories that center underrepresented, communities. So that's a little bit about Esther. The film itself, called Cry Baby Cry, it follows Liz, a woman in her early 30s, as she navigates the aftermath of stealthing, an intimate betrayal that leaves her raw, distant, and struggling to reconnect with herself. Haunted by fear and fractured trust, Liz leans on a dear friend, Ramaya, whose sharp wit and unwaveringly support offers both comfort and challenges. Their friendship becomes a vital anchor, though Liz remains caught between longing for sexual freedom and the shadows of her trauma. Encouraged to try online dating, Liz confronts shadow exchanges that only magnify her unresolved pain. Flashbacks blur moments of intimacy, and with the violation that altered her sense of agency, underscoring the heavy societal and emotional weight of consent. The film resists neat resolution, instead closing with Liz's quiet resilience, a raw, intimate portrait of healing as a messy, non-linear process, and a testament to the courage it takes to reclaim one's voice and autonomy. That gives you some background about Cry Baby Cry. We've got one person in the waiting room. I'll bring them in. So I have watched the film. It is phenomenal. It is extremely powerful. And although it is a short film, it stays with you for a very long time. And it, prompts you to ask a lot of questions. For those that just joined in, there will be time to ask Esther some questions after our chat. So feel free to raise your hand at that time and ask some questions. But I want to sort of get into our questions. I gave a bit of synopsis about the film there, but I want, if you don't mind, kind of diving a little bit deeper to tell our audience here more about the film.
Sure. Firstly, thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation so much, Angie. The film is predominantly, it is a 14-minute short about stealthing, about consent. It's stealthing, it's about the it's when someone takes a condom off during sex, which is, breaking consent here. And while the film is about consent and it's about stealthing, it's also about friendship and resilience. And it's about trauma, trauma and healing that doesn't really happen in a linear way. It's ebb and flow, and it's not, like you said, it questions, how one heals and whether you can actually tie something with a neat bow and like get over things as society expects you to do. Um, and so, yeah, the film sort of came from a personal experience. It was an experience that I had in 2021, and to me, first I was quiet about it and I was like, okay, if this has happened, how do I deal with this? I spoke to friends about it. I did therapy. It took me a while to sort of understand that it was not my fault, that this experience happened to me. And then in 2022, it was deemed illegal by the Supreme Court. It was a case, it was RV Kirkpatrick, and it was at that point of time, I was like, oh my God, this is illegal. Oh my God, like, someone can be, you could take someone to court for this. It's not just a gray area situation. It's not just a me feeling weird about an experience that I had. This is real. And so at that point of time, I was like, okay, I need to tell this story. And the best way I knew was to make a short film. And so that was sort of
Was
my in.
that revelation, that vindication, was that part of the motivation to make the film? As you point out, it's an extremely personal experience, unfortunate experience that you had that many, I think you would agree, and you did for a while, like shy away from.
Yeah.
And but you decided no, you needed to do something about it.
Yeah, it was extremely personal, but it was also very urgent. This is while it termed, it was deemed illegal in 2022. It's been happening forever.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was like, well, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to say something about it. And
Yeah.
it's so underrepresented and not discussed, like when I actually made the film, like I had people saying, oh, there's a term to it. Oh, is this a real thing? Oh, it's still happening to women. So it was a very like, yeah, all of that, and
Yeah.
if people don't know that it's a crime, no one will report it. So for
Right.
me, it was like, oh my God, I have to talk about stealthing. I need to name it. I need to call it what it is. I need to let people know that there are very little statistics on it because people don't report it. I need them to know that it's a crime in Canada. Like people didn't know that. People still don't know that. This was a
Mm.
small sort of step towards bridging that gap between, you know, um, people thinking, it was perhaps it was like, it was misdemeanor. It was, I don't know why he would do that, or like, maybe it's a you problem, like that sort of thing. I needed to bridge that, and I wanted to break the cultural silence that and shame that something like sexual assault actually has. And that was like one of the reasons that pushed me to really saying, make the film, write it down, Yeah.
It's an interesting line with the background that you have, the work that you've been doing in as a journalist in the industry, now pivoting over to becoming a filmmaker and wanting to put what very much can be a story in our newsrooms when we see sort of the legality of something around this come
Yeah.
about, the final definition or the final result or the final ruling on this. What has the response been like from this film, and what has it been like for you? Because you're kind of, I guess, balancing between now, sort of wearing the two hats. One, I think, more so now is the filmmaker hat, not so much the journalist hat. But that also, you take the experience of what you've done in newsrooms to and applied it here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was the reaction was actually pretty strong, and it was quite lovely. Like a lot of people were able to say that, oh, well, like I'd never seen this directly on TV, so the
Right.
representation of that moved people, and that was really nice. Like people would, literally slide into my DMs and say, oh my God, like, I've experienced this, or I think this happened to me. So people were able to name it. A lot of people were able to say, oh, this happened to me and it's called stealthing. So great reactions in that sense. And of course, it made people very uncomfortable also, because the film, while it is about stealthing, it also is about her reclaiming herself, right? And so when you combine both of that, people are like, I'm uncomfortable, and there was some screenings. I remember like the energy in the room changed. Like you knew that they were uncomfortable. And I was like, good, you need to feel uncomfortable because this is an act of misogyny, you need to
Hmm.
feel her pain. You need to think about your actions and the ramification of what people do. So in that sense, it was very validating and like great reactions. I mean, I hope that this reaches more people and more people can get to watch it and call it out and then feel represented. And for me, like I think because I've worked in factual TV for so long, it's always been about pushing for stories that, marginalized stories, stories about women, things that, chase that story that, it might be someone's lived experience, but is not common enough, but it needs to be told. So I've
Mhm.
always been that person. And I think with this film, I felt like, well, you've done this for so many other people. You should do this for you. You should do this
Yeah,
for all the other women that have experienced stealthing. And so
yeah,
it was a massive step to be a writer, director, producer of a fiction film, um,
right.
that was inspired by my own experience, but it was a piece of fiction. And so that was a huge step for me.
I want to touch on something that you said just now when you said that in terms of what the reaction was. A lot of people said, well, I haven't heard these stories. I haven't seen something like this covered. What do you think needs to change? And I'm asking you now from the perspective of you as a filmmaker, having put this project out, um, what more needs to be done to get journalists aware of stories like this, to push harder in newsrooms for stories like this that, yes, maybe they're uncomfortable, maybe they're not as known, but they are so critical and so important when we are talking about women's rights, the protection of women, diversity, equity, and inclusion, breaking those barriers and those stereotypes and standing up when sometimes that pitch can be hard
Yeah.
for your news director to go, okay, are we going to have enough eyes that care about it?
Yeah. No, I think we need to, I think so many things are deemed newsworthy. And I
Hmm.
think that definition needs to change for sure. We need to be more inclusive. We need to understand that I think what happens is with stories like this, especially about sexual assault and women, I think it turns into like a niche story or it's a sensitive story, and it's not given like sort of the platform that it should be given. But it is a broader story. These are broader aspects that if we don't talk about, like the more visibility, it's our job to bring visibility to stories like that, and to let survivors have that space to talk about their experience and not to think that, oh, if it's your lived experience, then it's yours.
Right,
Storytelling, and I think for me personally, it's the more personal the story is, the more universal it is.
right.
And if you are not able to understand that and include those stories, then I think we're failing as storytellers and people who have that sort of capacity. And I think media has it's able to it helps people understand what is real and what is rare or what is normal, like, and it's on us to be able to push these stories forward and say this is real, this is happening.
Hmm.
I think globally around 25% to 30% of women have experienced stealthing. They just don't report about it.
Hmm.
They don't think, it's something to report about, or they've been culturally silenced, or they've been made to feel like it's a me problem. It's not seen as misogyny. Like, I think the women reacted to the film a lot. I don't know about the men because I know that it was like oh, is this okay? Like, this is a real thing. It's affecting you guys. Like, it's one of those, it's not.
Right.
So the gravitas is lost, and while you might know that it is, illegal to do that, there has to be a bridge with what people know, what the legality is. So in situations like that, all we can do is try and push forward and like really fight for the stories we believe in. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but
It did. Is it important for us to talk about what's uncomfortable?
so important. It's so important. The more uncomfortable, and I think that I've realized that about me, anything that is, it's living in silence or that's uncomfortable, I'm attracted to that. And I'm like, we need to talk about this, someone has to talk about it,
Hmm.
and stealthing specifically, like I literally saw just one reference of it, um, in this show called I May Destroy You, and it was a very small snippet. And when I saw that, that was like the only reference I had. And then of course the film that I made, like I don't have any other reference of it because it's so underrepresented. So, we need to talk about these things, and especially stealthing, and it needs to stop.
You have taken this film, and as I mentioned, you've put it out on the film circuit. You continue to get it the exposure that it needs to. What's the reaction been like at other film festivals? Again, where yeah, I guess there's an opportunity to show that level of art, but in this case here, you're not just showing your art; you're also talking about an issue that is so extremely important and affects women all around the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was mixed, and it was so interesting because like the first when the film premiered for me, I was so nervous about it. I don't think I paid attention to what
Mm,
reactions were like, but there were a lot of oohs and ahs. I remember that. And it also filmed at a it filmed it was sorry, it premiered at IFSA, and it was a predominantly a South Asian uh, sort of setup, and the audience was South Asian. So there were a lot of oohs and eyeing, and there was like silence. There was a lot of silence. And because the film has little snippets of like there's a joke here, the joke there, all these lighter moments, you could tell that people went from like laughing, and then real like quiet and silence. And so for me, that was very validating. I was like, okay, that's good. People are feeling something. They're thinking. They're being uncomfortable. But as the film went to other festivals, I think it sort of it felt easy to watch it. It was also art. What 28 women came together and made it together. It was
mm,
a film. It was educational, but it also made you feel, and it made you think. And you took something away from it. So I think there has been a growth to the way I've also experienced the film as the filmmaker. And
mm,
how like friends have watched it over and over again, and people have watched it and have been like, okay, I saw it for the second time, and I'm absorbing more. I understand the nuance of it, or I understand the
mm.
reasoning of it, and it's been a gradual sort of growth, even for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that sense, and I know, like, when you do watch it, I think your purpose is to make the person watching it feel uncomfortable, and then to question what exactly is going on here, and why it isn't. You can't justify it.
Yeah.
Something wrong has clearly happened. Um, what would you say to some of the journalists that are listening right now about, I guess, the importance of pushing on a story um, that may require a little more sell, but it's again, it goes back to, and I guess I come back to the fact that in my career, when I first started covering domestic violence, it was a difficult story to cover. A couple of reasons, of course, difficult in itself. You had to be protective of anybody that you were talking to. But a difficult and very heavy story is that too heavy for us to put on the air. And then he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then, of course, that more that sort of came about of it. What would your advice be to some of the journalists that are listening right now, about the importance of pushing the envelope?
I think that it's a privilege to be a journalist and to be a storyteller, and I think we need to use that to the best of our abilities.
Hmm.
And I think that just with stealthing, for example, like I feel like more countries need to stand up, and more countries need to sort of turn this into an illegal sort of crime. And UK has done that, and Australia has done that, and Canada has done that. And I feel like I feel like people who have the privilege and can talk about it should talk about it. Not because they have not experienced it, but because it is a phenomenon that needs to be spoken about. This is, why is this still happening to women? Why are they still going through this? Why are we not able to respect each other and understand a boundary when it's drawn? Why are people running free from this? Why don't we know more about it? Why every time a person came up to me and said, "Oh my God, is that a real word?" And I had to
Right.
be like, Yeah, yeah, it's in the dictionary. It is a real word. It's not just something we've made up. I mean, there was a time where on a Word document, if I typed stealthing, it was a mistake. It was a
Mm,
spelling mistake. It's not that anymore, thank God. But to me, it's like that's a question mark. Why is it a spelling mistake when this is a phenomenon that happens to people?
mm,
And to anyone who is watching and feels like, okay, this we need to find these stories. We need to be more humane about experiences of people, especially women. And I feel like it's at least that's the way I think. I'm just like,
yeah.
how can I help? Uh, you know spread the word and be better. How can we be better
Mhm.
at this life that we're living, you know? Um, and so like for me, it's just like push as much as you can, you know, you will get, everyone's not going to say yes. You know, it took me a while to get here. Like you know,
Mm.
from 2021, I finally made it in 2025. It took me 3 years, you know, so it was, and it was a pull and push for me because it was a personal story. But
Right.
if I didn't say it, who would have, you know, like it was that. So it's like, if not me, then who? And
Mhm.
we need to take onus for things like that because we can. There are people who go through things like that and go through worse and can't say anything about it, you know. So because we can, we should, you know, it's our
Mhm.
you know, it's a duty to kind of, you know, stand up and tell these stories and not shy away and be brave. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to run out of time here, so I do want to open up the floor for anyone that has questions to you about the work that you've done. Okay, Frika Med, you know what? Go ahead. I'll ask. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and or we can get you unmuted here for Fakri.
Yeah, hi.
There you go. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, thank you. Before I actually ask my question, I just want to say something personal. Esther, knowing you and seeing this film actually means a lot to me because in your own way, you helped me understand how something uh, painful or even difficult can be turned into something really meaningful, creative, and also powerful. So you took a real experience, something I believe heavy, and transformed it into an art that can actually open conversation, help people also feel less alone, and maybe even heal other people in the same time. So that takes courage, I believe, honesty, and definitely a very rare kind of strength. So thank you so much for making this film actually. So my question to you is, because the film is based on something deeply personal, how did you protect yourself emotionally while writing and directing it?
Thank you for the question. That's actually a great question. And I struggled with it, if I'm being honest, the start. Even when I wrote it, I didn't write it in a linear way. I wrote pieces of it, and there were things that were too much to handle, and then I would stop and I would keep coming back. So it was not a linear. I didn't sit like and just go, oh, you know, I have a script ready. It didn't work. It took me a while to get there. And then I had to, what happened was that when I started to talk about it, about the film to, you know, when I was trying to crew up and cast, and I would start with, you know, okay, this is a film I'm making. It's about stealthing. Have you heard about stealthing? And people would be like, yeah, I've experienced it, you know, or yeah, my friend experienced it, or oh my God, please tell me more. The more I spoke about it to people and the more I started to crew up, I realized that yes, this is the me story, but it is also all of their story. You know, the film has a statistic in the end that says 5 women out of the 20 that actually worked on the film actually experienced it. So for me, it was like, oh my God, this is not just a Liz story anymore. It's a story of so many other women. So the more I worked on it, the more I was able to detach and say, well, yes, the inception of it comes from me, but this is a story about every woman that has actually had any sort of sexual assault or experienced stealthing. And so I was able to detach, but it was a hard process. It was not easy because, you know, it was so close to home. But because it was, besides being personal, it was so urgent, I had to find a way to detach and tell the story as a story and not make it about me. It was not about me. It started off with being about me, but at the end of it, it was about everyone that had, you know, experienced it, and anyone that will go to experience it, you know, that they have something to fall back on. Yeah.
Oh, Nicole. Oh,
Hi, Esther.
Ah.
When you have a story that you kind of think about it for years, you say that this is a story that you had in your mind for a few years. What was it that made now feel like the perfect moment to act on that story and to bring it to life?
Thank you. That's actually a great question. Um, I felt, I think it was an inner sort of strength, and there was a moment where I knew that if I didn't tell this story now, I would actually never do it. Like, and I think it was a very guttural sort of like, you have to make this, you have to do this now. This is the moment. And a lot of things worked out, and I think it was also one of those, like, the universe, I worked on bringing it to life, and the universe sort of helped me do that. It also was at a time when I had actually quit work, so that worked out as well for me. But I think you will know deep, really deep inside, where when you have to take action. And it was, I knew, I woke up one day and I knew that I had to tell it. I had to do it now. And it was like, it was very like, do it now, like write it, finish it, don't, what are you waiting for? And there are lots of things, right? Like, oh, I don't know how to receive. Oh, I don't have the money to do this. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. And it was like, well, if you don't do this now, you will never do it. And so, and I had a lot of encouragement, and I had the time, and I had the time to breathe through the script. I had time to sit with it and then detach from it and say, I have to do this now, or no one else. It was very much like, no one's talking about it. You can talk about it. You can make a film, make it. So it did take a lot of courage and a lot of strength, but I knew deep inside that I had to do it. And I'm so grateful that I had the capacity, and found the team and found the cast. And I think the universe works that way. The moment you give it a little bit, it starts to give you. So finding the right cast, finding the right crew, people saying I've experienced it, and I'm like, okay, you know what, let's do this. Momentum sort of grows. It's a kernel. You've got to start, and then it grows, hopefully.
I love that it's an all-female crew and cast.
It is. I'm
And I
so
think you
proud of
guys
that.
were all, and it seems like there was this level of support
There
for
were.
everybody in the film.
Yeah.
Um, any other questions? Anybody else? Let's see if there's anything in the chats. Nothing in the chat. Any other questions? I have one last one then for you. What's
Fun.
next? What are you hoping to do next? But what I guess is next for also this conversation, this film that's now, spurred this conversation.
Yeah, I feel like the journey has just begun, if I'm being honest. And I feel like the more I talk about it, the more people will want to watch the film, and vice versa. I hope we're able to take it to more smaller communities and have more screenings, screenings in colleges. Everybody needs to know about this. And hopefully it'll find a home where it can stay, virtually live, and people can have access to that. So I definitely hope that it finds a home. And personally, I'm working on a short to feature with a friend, and we directed the first 17. I directed the first 17 pages of it, and it's about cricket and masculinity and mental health, and uh, you know, uh, and I think that is something that I'm working on. I want to build that, and we're looking for funding to make that film. And I'm also working on a psychological horror, about inheritance is genetic code, what it is, what it means when it's passed from mother to daughter. So yeah, so a lot of these are like, they sit in silence, and you've got to dig in, and you've got to be like, I'm going to get my hands into it. I'm going to try and understand this, and create a world around it, and portray it and tell a story. There's also one that I'm working on about women and like bodily autonomy, so very much on brand with, like, these stories that are underrepresented and under discussed, and not really stay in the cultural silence, but we need to break free and we need to break through. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I had a dog barking there, as we have with, live television. There you go. Any other questions from anybody? Nope. Okay. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We are going to continue to sort of build on these in conversation with presented by RTDNA. Esther, as I mentioned, it's an incredible film. You are incredible with everything that you've done. Congratulations on this. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And we hope that we can have you back to talk about more of the stuff that you're doing. And I think it's a really important conversation from how you've sort of been able to open up your career and your skills to do and tell some of the stories that you've been wanting to tell beyond the newsroom. And so hopefully it'll be some inspiration and encouraging for our journalists to be able to sort of push on some of those harder stories, because they are important ones that need to be told. So I thank you so much. It's been
Thank you.
such a
Thank you.
lovely talking to you.
So grateful. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening.